May value yung Department of Public Works and Highways. May value yung BIR. May value yung assessor. So ngayon, saan ba kukuha yung magtatanong yung investor? Saan bang totoong value dito?
From our experience, usually we do say that the value of BIR should be lower than that of the local government unit. In as much as when we set taxes, usually we say BIR says whichever is higher. And it will be politically unpopular for the local government unit if the valuation of the LGU is higher than BIR.
Since the approval of the SMV was passed on to the local councils as mandated by the Local Government Code, real property valuation as a technical exercise has been unduly influenced by political interests. Real property valuation is not well understood even by most local legislative councils which approve the SMV of LGUs. As a result, proposals for the general revision of assessments and property classifications are shelved or often not provided with budget.
Dahil ang humahawak ng pag-approve ng ating schedule of market value ay ang local government o lahat na yung ating legislator, ang ating councilors, hindi po nagiging regular ang ating paggawa ng ating schedule of market value or pagganap ng ating katungkulan bilang paggawa ng o pag-revise ng ating assessment every 3 years or 5 years.
In general, the schedule of market values across the LGUs are about 15 years outdated already. This led to foregone revenues, especially at the LGUs. In 2010, the average contribution of real property tax to total LGU revenue was only 6%, while national transfers in the form of ERA was 75% in provinces and municipalities and 43% in cities.
For a long time, real property taxes are considered the cornerstone of local finance. Since the outset, when the Americans came to our country in 1901, real property taxes was one of the basic sources of revenues for local governments. But over time, we find an erosion of the tax base simply on the practices that we did, especially on valuing and assessing properties. During the time of President Marcos, he embarked on reforms on real property tax administration, and this time there was a tremendous change insofar as property inventory is concerned. We call it tax mapping operations. However, the problem on valuation still persists because the practices that that is being imposed in government are, as I've said, it is averaging and not really getting the point at which value should be pegged. And so, over the years, taxes on real properties, while it is being imposed, it's still based on undervalued properties and not on properties being valued on current and fair market value.
The Department of Finance, under the Second Land Administration and Management Project, initiated to propose policy reforms in property valuation and taxation processes. A number of legislators recognized the importance to bring about the much-needed reforms.
Sang-ayon kami sa pag-aaral ng ginawa ng Center for International Private Enterprise, ang CIPE. Itong report nila, the Philippines Property Market Scorecard, Conditions for Small Businesses. Isa sa mga problemang sinabi rito, the need for us to pass a valuation reform law. We should be able to depoliticize the process of valuation. Gusto lang naman natin isulong dito, huwag paglaruan yung talagang eksaktong presyo ng isang property.
Well, it will ensure the sustainability of the proposed valuation reforms. It will amend certain dysfunctional provisions of the Local Government Code of 1991, which hindered the achievement of the goals of local autonomy by enhancing LGU capacity to increase local income from real property tax and reduce dependence on the IRA, the Internal Revenue Allotment.
A concrete action towards institutionalizing the reform has in fact been started with a pursuit to pass the Valuation Reform Act bill. This proposed law aims to promote the Philippine valuation standards, to adopt market value as the single valuation base for appraising real property, to ensure a reliable, accessible, and up-to-date database on real property transactions, and to depoliticize and strengthen the valuation process by enabling the Department of Finance to exercise its regulatory function over the local government assessors. By doing so, isolating the technical function of real property valuation from the political function of tax policy and administration.
Now, in the Valuation Reform Act, there is a system by which we mandate or we force the LGUs to comply with that. And that is done by saying that after 5 years, the schedule of market value no longer applies. So there will be no basis for collection of real property tax, which is again the lifeblood of the LGU. And so they will be forced to re-examine and to reassess all of these areas and put a real value on a good true value for the schedule of market values, much closer again to market value than we have now.
Alam niyo po, lifeblood ng local government gaya ng sinabi natin, business, real property. Kung ariglano po yung real property tax natin, system, collection, valuation, assessment, ang laki ng tulong yan sa isang local government.
The goals of good governance will be achieved because of the built-in transparency in land valuation. The general public will likewise have open access to land values from transactions through the development and maintenance of a real property sales transaction database that will help them arrive at important decisions regarding their most important asset.
Again, this is simply a question of explaining properly how what the bill is trying to do and how it proposes that is explained. I think that I cannot see how people will find that it is not going to be advantageous. I believe that people will see this bill and having the new system in place.
The Department of Finance and the Department of the Interior and Local Government signed a joint memorandum circular in October 2010 enjoining all LGUs to update their SMVs and revise their property assessments. The passage of the Valuation Reform Act into law will perpetuate the reforms which have been started in 2001. Let us support the VRA bill.